grand, ambient, ethereal, frightening, spooky, like a memory, nostalgic, magical, whimsical, half-forgotten, faded. There are all sorts of feelings that music and movies evoke that very often we don't hear in music every day. I can't go through all of them in one video, but over the course of multiple videos, I'm going to try to go through different techniques that are used in film. So let's try to make some cinematic sounds. One mode that's often overlooked in music, but is really useful in film, is Lydian. You can certainly find it in modern music, including very notable artists like the Beatles or Grateful Dead. But for the most part, it's not utilized all that often. And it's absolutely fantastic in film for giving a very magical, whimsical, light, ethereal feeling. Lydian is the fourth mode of the major scale, and it is like the major Ionian scale, but with a raised fourth degree. Here I have C Lydian, which is like C major, but that F is raised up a half step to become F sharp. This is perfect to use with really light, airy instruments like strings, flutes, celesta, bells, chimes. It creates a really magical feeling. Another way to get a very magical, otherworldly sound is through using chromatic mediants. And this is when you use a chord that begins on the third of where you had started, but the chord's quality is not diatonic. So in the example here, I'm starting with the chord G major, and then going to its third, B, and then playing B major. Now, the chord B major uses notes that are outside of the key G major, so it's not diatonic, and is instead chromatic. Going between two majors like this gives a really cool sound. Okay, it's hard to call this next one really cinematic, but it is one of the best TV gimmicks ever. See this? This is what dreams sound like. This is the whole tone scale. It sounds, this is what dreams sound like. You know what I mean. See? You can use it for all sorts of weird, mysterious stuff. It's perfect. And the whole tone scale is really easy to construct. You just start at any note, and each movement is one whole step away. So in this case, one whole step up from C, then a whole step, then a whole step, then a whole step, then a whole step, and then a whole step, and you're right back. And you can start that from anywhere. Perfect for just those precise, whole-tony, magical moments. And now, space. Certainly. You know what's fantastic for space? Augmented chords. And we can get an augmented chord by taking a major triad and raising the fifth degree up a half step. In this case, we have C augmented, with the notes C, E, and G sharp. Conversely, another type of chord to make use of in these sorts of grand epics is the diminished chord, which is structured like a minor triad, but with the fifth brought down 1/2 step. Here I have F sharp diminished. And that's great for a sound that just hangs over you with a really dark, unsettled feeling. I'm going to use it in an example similar to how I used the augmented chord, but this time making use of diminished. So instead of having a feeling of looking out into a vast open space, it's more like staring at a black hole where there's a dark, unsettling feeling around you. Another effect I like to use in cinematic writing can be used with all different sorts of music, and that's staccato strings. And it just builds up a lot of energy. I think it's perfect for when you're trying to build up tension and excitement for something. And similarly to earlier how we used non-diatonic major thirds, using minor thirds is what spookiness sounds like. Here in these first 4 bars, I'm going between C minor to E flat minor. 1 minor chord, and then playing the minor chord beginning on its third. And then for the last chord, just moving another minor third to G flat minor. And you can get a lot out of just moving from a minor chord to a minor chord 1/3 away. It's just spooky. It is, because it is. Or how about this one? And while we're on the topic of moving by thirds and staying within the key can give a really atmospheric sound. That can be a great way to build a progression for something that's still or maybe wistful or sentimental. Especially if you use nice echoey instrumentation, perhaps slow arpeggiation, it can be really useful for more thoughtful, subtle films. The last thing I'm going to discuss in this video is the use of modal interchange. And modal interchange is particularly useful in film or theater writing, as you're able to direct the listener/viewer to changes in the plot. Within the same thematic piece of writing, you can change the mode and change the feeling that the audience is getting from it, directing them to a new development that you're bringing up in the story. In that example, there was a real clear sudden mood shift as there was a change in mode, and the shift was done by keeping the same tonic, but changing the other notes of the scale, very clearly moving us into a new mode. But there's another way to accomplish this, and technically it would be more akin to modal ambiguity, where you never change the notes you use, but you direct the listener to a new degree as a new first degree, a new home. For example, you could play a melody very focused around C in C major, and then over time make the note D and the chord D minor very clearly the tonic, make that sound like home, in effect moving you into D Dorian. Well, I hope that was useful, and if it wasn't, I'll try to make stuff that's useful. So do subscribe if you want to see more. I'm going to keep making more videos on more topics too, because I spend pretty much all my time thinking about stuff and learning things, and I really need to explain them. Until then, have a marvelous evening. Commander Data, engage.